Hey there, welcome to Farmcraft. Working on the excavator today. So I've got a whole video series on buying this excavator and various things that I fixed on it. I worked on the fuel tank. I worked on the swivel joint. That was a big job. Tightened up the bushings on the bucket pivot, but I need to address the tracks. The track adjusters don't work, and I think I'm just going to need a new track on this side. When I bought it, it had a new track on the other side, but an old one on this. So when I first got the machine, this track, the old track, would not hold grease and it wouldn't maintain tension for very long. So I knew the adjuster on that side was leaking. But even the other side would not adjust to the specification that is in the manual. We'll look more at this later, but just suffice to say that I went into this knowing there was something wrong with both sides because it wouldn't do what the manual says it should do. So let's get this thing pulled into our work area. That track is really loose. It won't hold any grease. I am hoping that I'll be able to limp in there reasonably well. I don't have far to go. It may just come off. I don't know. We'll see. So this is my first time ever dealing with track adjusters. I've never even seen the mechanism. I am just going to show you the video and kind of how I went through it, but I think I made some mistakes on this, and if I were to do it over now, I would do things differently. So I will do a self-critique later in the video. Oh yeah, it just came off. So regular viewers of my channel will know that this is my first excavator and my first tracked machine, so I definitely have more to learn about dealing with tracks. Previously I had a track come off, and I didn't think that I could reach the track with the bucket. But of course you can. You have to pivot the boom where it attaches to the house here, and then that allows you to get closer to your tracks and push on them with the bucket. So I was able to get that track back on and continue on my way, and it immediately came off again. I don't have far to go, so I decided to just limp in. You put the bucket down, you lift up the bad track, you drive the good track, and then pivot the house, and you can limp along slowly but surely. Hey, this video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is a leading VPN provider, which means virtual private network. But what does that actually mean? Well, it's an app that puts you in the driver's seat when it comes to using the internet. You get to set your location to anywhere in the world while at the same time hiding your actual location. It also encrypts all of your internet traffic, so everything that you do is protected and anonymous. It's kind of like using the internet as a VIP, but while wearing a mask. All the doors are open to you, but nobody knows who you are or where you are. I'm looking very smug right now, by the way. Did you know that many websites only offer certain things in certain areas of the world? For instance, Amazon and Netflix have certain movies that you can only see from certain countries. Ever see this? That's annoying, isn't it? Well, with Surfshark, you can just change your location, and as far as Netflix knows, you are in France, or Zimbabwe, or the North Pole. Okay, I don't know if the North Pole is actually a location you can set, but you get the point. Or maybe you're on a public Wi-Fi, like in a coffee shop or an airport, and you need to do some banking. Don't do it. You're a sitting duck to a hacker. But with Surfshark, you're fine. Your sensitive data is encrypted and secure, even on a public network. So sign up with Surfshark now, enter the promo code FARMCRAFT, get 83% off, and get 3 months free. It's amazingly affordable, too. It only costs $2.49 a month. Can be installed on unlimited devices and has a 30-day money-back guarantee. Not much to lose here. So what are you waiting for? The question is, do you really want them tracking you on the internet? Speaking of tracking, let's get back to work. The best part of working on the excavator is jacking it up. So this track was already off, so getting it the rest of the way off wasn't really any trouble, just using a digging bar as a big pry bar. I checked out all the rollers and they all feel really good, very little play in them. The other side I have to let the grease out to take the tension off the track, which makes a nice little mess to clean up. I wanted to see if I could move the track by kind of rolling it like this. I wouldn't recommend this. This was pretty hard, probably not good for my back. It was quite a bit easier on the older track because it was very worn down and much more flexible and lighter. A new one of these weighs about 550 pounds. Using Ed with a strap and a hook made it a lot easier. You guys remember Ed? The idler wheel just pulls out, and it wasn't too heavy. And that's what we've got back there now. So I'm not sure, but I think the cylinder just pulls out. It's loose. Must be something holding it in. Oh yeah. Yeah, you just got to keep working it. It's just wedged in with dirt and crud and who knows what else. So there it is. So typically you want to leave that stud in there. That's where the grease fill port goes. And I was thinking I was rebuilding it, so I didn't need to bother, but I still probably should have left it in. But whatever, I'll do that on the other side. You don't have to unscrew it all the way to let the grease out. Alright, so I've got that cleaned out pretty well. The cylinder goes up against that metal plate in there, and it just sits there because it's trapped by the track. So it doesn't need anything to hold it in place. It just needs something to push against. So that's what that metal is. When you come from this side, it's this piece of metal right here. And no reason to clean it out too well because it's just going to get dirty again. So I don't really want to pump this thing full of grease just to get it apart. So let me see if I can take this grease zerk out and just use air. Moving. Not much to that. The seals look like they've seen better days. So it looks like there's an external seal and then an O-ring and an internal seal. So I am going to go to the dealer and see how much it is for new seals before I go ripping them out, because I'd kind of like to have an idea what I'm supposed to get out as I'm ripping them out. In the meantime, I'm going to take apart the other side. Okay. If it's going to shoot, I'm going to shoot it towards you. That's just how I roll. Old grease in there. Doesn't feel like rock hard or anything, so I think it's fine. Just need new seals. It always comes down to the seals. Alright, so I checked the parts manual. There's 3 parts in here. They're sold as a kit. I have the part number, so I'm going to rip these things out of here. And the only way I really have to do it, it'd be nice if I had some way to go in and hook out and then like slide hammer it out. But I don't, so we're going to use the old screwdriver, hopefully. Hefty piece of steel. I don't think I'll be crushing it. Thing's not right. Might be time for a little heat. Lubricant on top there. Hopefully that'll work its way in. And my torch doesn't work. That's weird. Well, that's a bummer. Man. Am I doing something stupid here? This has to come out. There's no other way. It's just bending it. Yep, sometimes I hate seals. Hey, look at that. There we go. See, I thought there was a second ring that needed to come out there. But I think that's actually just part of this. It was turned in there and there's a groove down beneath it. So I just need to get those out from underneath. O-ring. And looks like a backup ring. I think that's it. That's just a groove. So there's a couple nicks on there. And I'll just smooth those out with some sandpaper. Shouldn't be an issue as long as they're not sticking out. That's it. There's your parts. Seal, O-ring, and a backup ring. Not bad at all. I just spent quite a bit of time getting these cleaned out. Many rags and lots of brake cleaner. And I got it pretty clean in there. Reason being is because I needed to use sandpaper to clean up some of the areas up here that I nicked. And the grit from the sandpaper is going to get into the grease, and the grease is going to stay in there, and it's just going to mess up the new stuff. So had to take the time to clean it all out. In retrospect, if you're doing this job on this machine, just realize there's a step here in the part that you want to avoid. Keep, your pry tool up above it and get that seal out of there, and then it'll be easy. If you don't nick that thing, you wouldn't have to clean this all out. But it's fine. I get to look at the barrel. Barrel looks good. And yeah, we're ready to reassemble once we get new seals. Alright, I actually had a rare win here. So I went to the dealer, and each set was $65, probably additional on shipping, and of course I would need 2 of them, so it would have been $130. So I went to that same, there's different departments in this same business. I went to the hydraulic shop where they just kind of match up seals, and I was able to get all of them for 15 bucks. I find that kind of funny. Anyway, so yeah, let's rebuild these suckers, and then we can start working on getting it back together. Alright, let's get those O-rings first. Cover it. But I don't know what this is from, but it covers those very well. So I can slide the O-ring over that. And not tear it up dragging it over the threads. Okay, the first thing to go in is the backup ring, and it has a flat side and it has a convex side that goes against the O-ring. So just point the convex side up. I'm just making sure I've got it right. I don't like the way that backup ring is going in there. And I'm wondering if the seal kit would have actually been better. Alright, so I noticed when I got these that this backup ring was just slightly wider than that one. And I mentioned it to him and he thought it was just from wear, but apparently not. So this ring measures just over 100 thou. This one is 119. The ID is slightly tighter on the new one. So that means even though there's like a 17 thousandths difference, it's not all on the outside. But enough of it's on the outside that it's not letting it sit flat. So I think I need to take like, I don't know, 12 thousandths or something off of the outside. And there's just no way I'm going to do that perfectly. But I really don't think it matters that much. This is a grease cylinder. It's not even trying to hold oil. It's holding thick grease. And the important thing is the O-ring. I'm going to try to shave this down a little bit and put it together. And I bet you it'll work. And if it doesn't, I'll regret it and I'll have to take it back apart and put in the kit. But, the other thing, it wasn't just the money. They didn't have the kit in stock. I was going to have to wait for that to be delivered. So this gets me rolling on. So let's give it a go. I'm going to shave these down. I can't think of a great way to do it. I could use a sander, or I could use an X-Acto knife. Alright, it's probably a horrible idea, but I'm going to try it. Well, tell you another thing I'm tempted to try is just shove, I only got 2 of these, so I don't have 2 new O-rings, but just shove the old O-ring and then the new O-ring in, and I bet you that would work too. Yeah, that sits in there right now. Get one of the new O-rings. That's surprisingly hard to put in there. There we go. I'm going to go in there. It's just the wiper, but man. Well, I may be ordering these kits after all. I think this is just a tiny, tiny bit too big. Let's see if I can get it to go in. It's just a wiper. Oh, it's going in. Should have done it that way from the beginning. Now, can I get it to go the rest of the way in? Because obviously my socket is too big. I've got to find a piece of pipe or something that's just the right size. And yes, I know that's a little deformed, but again, just a wiper. Once the piston is in there, I don't think that's going to matter. So I've got this. It has the right OD, but of course it's hitting the rubber there, so I need to bring the ID out and maybe even chamfer it or something. It just needs to clear the rubber, and then I ought to be able to tap it the rest of the way in. So I should qualify that I would never do a rig like this on something that was harder to work on. You know, getting a track off and replacing this, now that I've done it, this really isn't that big of a job. If it was something like the swivel joint, I would only do it exactly as the book spec'd. But this is just not that big of a deal. And I bet you this is going to work. Quit rambling, John, and grease your rod. Wow. Certainly a good fit. One down. Not too bad. I'm going to go ahead and cut down my backup ring, and we'll see you back in a minute. Okay, trimmed backup ring. And my understanding is these are really more like a spacer. It just kind of keeps the O-ring in the right spot more than anything. I don't know. Let's see if we can do a little better with the wiper seal this time. Now the only thing left is my Johnson. The piston. What do you think? Am I going to regret this? I think it's going to work. It's surprising how tight that O-ring is. Easy. So I've got the piston all the way in, and I'm going to put as much grease in here as I can just to minimize the amount of air that's in there. I think the air will work itself out over time, but there, I just saw the piston start to move. That just seems a little too easy, but it really is. You know you're lined up when that's centered. Oh. Darn it, it's an offset track. This needs to be the other way. You're all right. Quit your belly aching. So you can see this old track's a little worse for wear. And after seeing the price of a new one, I have to admit, I thought long and hard about putting this one back on and just running it. How much do you think a new one costs? I mean, this thing's got some life left in it. It's not broken yet. There's the new track. This is the track on the other side. You can see it still has the line. So it essentially was replaced right when I bought the machine. Very little use on that. So how much do you think that costs? Maybe we should make it multiple choice. Was it $600, $1,200, or $2,300? It was $2,300 and change for one track. Yeah, this was from the dealer. So this is the OEM track, which they're better quality. You know, you can get aftermarket ones. The cheapest aftermarket I could find was $1,500, and they don't last. So you're really not getting anything for your money there. Any additional, you're not saving anything, because this is going to last a long time. You just basically, you have to cry and buy the good ones. I think there's some aftermarket companies that make good ones, but the prices versus the OEM are not really any different. So there you go. Dealer had it. They had it in stock, and they actually delivered it to me for free, quote unquote free. 2,300 bucks for one track. I paid 20 for the whole machine. That's 10% of the price of the rest of it. Anyway, I'll quit complaining now. Let's get these tracks on. I'm gonna put that track up in my hay barn. It will be my backup track. I'd really like to get to the point where I could do this by myself with a couple of pry bars and not need another machine to deal with the track. That way, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and this is all you've got, you just need pry bars. This bar was cool because it's under the track and then under that, so that it makes the track want to fall into position. That's something to remember. You see, I've got that one most of the way on. The bottom needs to come a little more, and here I just need to get the center over that idler wheel. The links, that's what they're called. It's stopping me from going over. Oh, that top roller, that's what's doing it. Look at that. Yeah, I can get better at that. I think I was pushing, the link was hitting this, and I didn't realize it. I think that could have been quite a bit easier. Let's do the other side. Yeah, I'll tell you what, with 2 people and 3 bars, I think this would be very reasonable. It's still reasonable, it's just taking a little longer doing it by myself. But having that, that's really nice, because now that track is trying to get into position. So definitely want to get the sprocket side first, I think. At this point, if I lift it up more and roll it a little bit, it's going to mesh here and give me a little more room, and then I can get the back on. I think using the machine is going to help on this one. All right, you guys ready? Prepare yourselves. Gonna see something you never thought you'd see on this channel. One of my patrons gave me this. I haven't even used it yet. And you know, I don't know if he wants to be named, but it's who gave this to me. And if he doesn't want to be named, every time I say all you're gonna hear is a But thank you, sir. This is a perfect job to not have to hand pump. Love it. Check that out. So now you know how a track adjuster works. When I'm pumping grease into the cylinder, it's extending the rod, which is pushing this idler wheel out and tensioning the track. At high speed, you can really see the idler wheel move. The manual said to do this to like 1/2 inch. That seems crazy to me. That's about 1 inch. That seems tight enough. And this will probably loosen up when I use it a little bit, so I'll have to check it again soon, but I think that's good. So it's still not able to pump it to within 1/2 inch. It's tight enough though. Pumped all that grease and my forearm's not even tired. Guess I'm gonna have energy to do something else. Alright, I've got another fix here I want to show you guys, but this didn't warrant its own video, so I'm just gonna throw it in here. This is a dishwasher. You know, I went online and went to some of the appliance technicians and asked them what to do, but they didn't know how to fix this. I know how to fix this. This thing would stop mid-cycle, it wouldn't drain, and the door seal was leaking. And there's one thing you can do to fix this. Let me show you. First you gotta lay it on its back. That, and then you need, hang on, I'll be right back. I gotta get some. That is no longer a problem. So for those of you wondering, I did try to fix that dishwasher. I replaced one thing and it didn't work, and it quickly became apparent it was going to be a money pit. I was going to end up spending more money in parts than it would cost to just buy a new dishwasher. I separated out all the copper components over here that I will use for future projects, and all the metal over here is going to go to recycling. So the observant among you have already realized that I did a lot more work on this repair than I needed to, and I'm okay with that, but I want to explain it so that if someone else is doing the repair, they don't make the same mistakes. One side was leaking down and would not hold grease, wouldn't tension the track. It turns out the only thing it needed was a new O-ring around the grease port seal, and you could have done that without any tear down at all. Just take that stud out and put a new O-ring on it and put it back together, and that would have fixed that side. I say that because the main seal, which it really is just an O-ring, there's an O-ring, a wiper, and a backup ring, was not leaking, because when I took them out, there was no grease around the wiper. So if that O-ring was leaking, then you would see grease squeezing out of the front, which it was not. Now, in my inexperienced defense, I couldn't get the tracks to adjust to the 1/2 inch that it specs in the manual, even on the side that apparently there was nothing wrong with it. And I don't quite understand that. Maybe the track design has changed. Maybe they're built heavier now than they were back in 03 when this manual was written. Maybe that's a mistake in the manual. So I felt like even though it wasn't leaking, there was something wrong with it because I couldn't get it to adjust appropriately. Turns out I'm just not going to adjust it appropriately. And if I'm making a mistake there, if somebody knows something more, please comment, but I just think trying to tension those tracks to 1/2 inch is absurd. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And if you put tracks on too tight, it's harder on the final drive, and the tracks go slower and all that kind of stuff. There's just no reason to crank a track on that tight. So in retrospect, I really think the only issue I had was the one O-ring around the grease port, and this would have been a very simple job. But, you know, I'm not sorry I did it. For me to understand something, I really have to take it apart, see it, feel it, and I did that. So now I know exactly what that is. It's a very simple mechanism. It's much more simple than I thought it was going to be. That's going to help me in the future. You know, one day I probably plan to get a much bigger excavator, and it'll be nice to have this knowledge. And hopefully it's nice for you guys to have learned something from my idiocy. So the other thing is, after looking at the way that thing is built, you could easily leave the wiper alone, reach down in there, grab that O-ring, pull it out, and just put a new O-ring in. And so if it was leaking out of the main seal, that's probably all you'd need to do, unless your wiper looks torn up. It still remains to be seen if that seal kit was necessary. The wiper and the O-ring that they were able to match up for me are perfect. The backup ring is the only thing, you know, I had to manually cut that out. Is that going to matter? I doubt it, but certainly if I have any problems in the future and have to change to the seal kit, I will give an update on my videos so that you guys know. Fast forward a bit into the future, I've already done a couple of jobs with this. So it definitely loosened up some. I would expect that with a new track. All this rubber and stuff here has worn off. It's not throwing tracks. It's actually pretty good. I'm fine with it like it is. The problem is this side is going slow. It's still not tracking straight. If the track was too tight, that could do it, but this is not too tight. It's pretty annoying. You have to have the handles very different from each other to go straight. Probably I'm going to need to rebuild the travel motor on this side at some point in the future. I don't see any evidence of leaking. I think my seals and everything have worked. So this is a bit of a problem area for our driveway for a couple reasons. The ditch here is steep, so it's a tough area to mow, and over the years stuff has grown up. And a lot of these are just sort of weed trees, but more importantly, they're in the ditch and they're clogging up the ditch all the time. And then they're really crowded and it just kind of looks junky. So I'm going to save some of the nice trees, like I'm going to save that oak, and there's a couple pines in there, and just kind of make it look a little neater and get all these trees out of the ditch here. Typically I would do this with a lot of physical labor and chainsaw and leave stumps and they'd all grow back. This time I'm just going to rip this all out with the excavator because that sucker's fixed. Let's use it. is going to look a lot better. And I was just going to push all the stuff into the woods, but there's so much of it that if you keep doing that, before long the edges of all your woods are just full of brush and scrub, and it's just a fire waiting to happen. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll bring my tractor out here, I'll stack all this stuff up, and I'll burn it. And, you know, that fertilizes the fields. Our fields are very acidic, and the ash really helps counter that. So it's not a bad thing to do. But yeah, I think that looks a lot better than it did. All right, guys, excavator is fixed. I'm real happy about that. I've got more to do with it, plenty more. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.